part of it was kind of a little finger to some of the books that I read as a kid, because there's this work of fiction. It's engaging, it's entertaining, and you have this plot, and it's a really creative idea. And it has nothing to do with the fact that like there shouldn't be any romance in this. It's just a story. You've got a monster, you have an alien, you have like an event happening, something that's occurring. But then at the end of the book, you've got these characters, and it's like, why are we now reading about them in bed together? Like, why did that romance come out from a story that was focusing on something else? So I was like, well, if that can happen with straight characters because they're literally, I don't know, in the room together, then I can do it better with two queer characters.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to this episode of the Queer Vision Pod. Today, I'm joining you from Rebecca's backyard while she is inside in a meeting. You will meet her here in a second if you have not already. It is our lovely co-host of the Queer Vision Pod, Becca, and I am Co. Today, we sat down with AZ Roskillis, an aerospace engineer and author. Their debut novel is Space Station X. You can get that through Space Wizard Science Fantasy, who you've also seen on this podcast as Bill Tracy. And her sequel, titled Fractal Terminus, also just dropped. So we definitely talk a little bit more about that. The conversation goes from beekeeping to Beanie Baby societies to queer representation in science fiction, and why sometimes the most radical thing you can do is just let your characters be gay without making it the whole plot. Like, genuinely, sometimes being gay is not the most interesting thing about you. Anywho, this was a really good episode, and it was really fun sitting down with them. So, without further ado, I'm sure you're sick of hearing my ass. Yeah. So let's get into the podcast. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us on the Queer Vision podcast today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Usually we just start out by like having you say your name, your pronouns, just a little short blurb about you, just so the audience can get to know you a little better.
Sure. So I'm AZ Roskillis. I identify as female. I am the author of Space Station X and Fractal Terminus. This is the sequel coming out in a few weeks. I also have a day job building spaceships, which is kind of my original calling. That's about the summary of me, actually.
That's awesome. So you have like the creative and the logic going on here.
Yeah, I guess that's the combination that wound up from that. Yeah. I come from creative parents, and I went and did science with it.
That's awesome. I think whenever you signed up for the interview, you said that Space Wizard Science Fantasy sent you.
Yes, that's the publisher that produces the books that I write.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I think that
We
you
love
guys
them.
have you have a connection with them. Yeah, I know they're in North Carolina.
Yep. We've interviewed him, and then his wife. We have had her book at our book club.
Oh, lovely. Okay, yeah, no, they're awesome. Yeah, I like working with them.
Where are you based?
So I live in Virginia. So I'm up in Northern Virginia area. Yep. So I've driven down to events to go work with Bill and Heather before. So they're not too far from me. Yeah.
Love that.
How do you want to tell us a little bit about, I guess, your book series and just how that kind of started for you?
Sure. Right. So I work as an aerospace engineer in my day job. I wanted to be a rocket scientist when I was like 9. Really, really stuck to that plan. Wanted to go to Mars. Wanted to apply to be an astronaut a couple times. Didn't get accepted, obviously. So when I was really little, there's not really a lot that you can do when you're 9. And I was growing up in like the New York City area. So like the easiest way of getting involved was just science fiction. So that's clearly a first love, and that's kind of universal in my industry. Is all of our conference rooms are named after Star Trek characters, and the hallways are named after moons and Star Wars movies. So we're a common type. The Martian is actually a very accurate book, the one by Andy Weir. We're
Really?
Yes, it's very accurate. Straight down to how we talk to each other in my industry. So yes, a lot of pop culture references constantly going on. A whole lot of Lego models all over the place. Or it takes a certain type. So, but yeah, so just a lot of science fiction when I was growing up. So I've always been a huge science fiction fan. I've had like come and go relationships with reading books. I wrote a lot of stories when I was a kid. I was not a fan of English class. Kind of got into higher grades or into college. So I really just kind of stuck with the technical side. The pandemic was a thing, and I was the one at home the whole time. But my spouse had a job that required her to be out and actually like at her job. So I was kind of the one stuck home alone. She had me read Gideon the Ninth, and it kind of
Mm,
affected my brain chemistry. I mean, it is its own thing, but the style of that storytelling for that particular book kind of flipped a switch for me. And I was like, well, I really want more like that. And
mm,
I've always been the kind of person who goes, if I see a problem, I should help fix it. So that
Mm.
meant writing a book, which I did over a weekend. It's a very long pandemic. I also then edited it several times. And after a while, like I had some feedback on it, people liked it. So I started pushing for more beta readers, and then I started querying. I was looking for agents, and then I kind of crossed paths with Space Wizard Science Fantasy, and they liked it, and here we are. So
that's
I
like a
guess
whirlwind.
something good came out of that long period of time of me being stuck in the house. So yeah,
I feel like we see that with a lot of people. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
COVID was that double-edged sword, right? Where it was like, oh, we're trapped in the house, but also like now we have all this time to kind of do,
The things that we've been putting off or that we
yeah,
didn't have interest in before.
or just like whatever we want, with
Yeah.
not
yeah.
really any expectation to do
I
anything
mean,
else.
I
So I think it,
didn't make a sourdough starter. I did see a lot of
You were the one person.
one sourdough, but I did see a lot of creativity kind of pop out of that. So yeah, that was kind of the, I guess, the silver lining of sorts. So I mean, I'd like to think that I've always had some storyteller roots. I've done things like what web comics and stand up comedy and a whole bunch of other kinds of just
Mhm.
storyteller style things. I've done teaching where I really like engaging with students and explaining things. I feel like this was a natural thing for me. It just seemed weird because of like my fraught relationship with like the language arts when I was in real school, and
Mhm.
then I clearly have a very technical role in my day job. So, but it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of I've seen that a lot, honestly, with a lot of people that are in the scientific world, that like because writing is so subjective and what teachers will like or, how they explain things to you, we just either get it or we don't get it. And we're like, okay, I wasn't lucky enough to have one of the teachers that saw my writing style and enjoyed it. So you kind of develop that a little bit later on. I feel like I've seen that a lot. And I've also seen a lot of people really surprised that like STEM field workers and that world have creativity. And I'm like,
I'm not.
yeah,
Because
you're
it's
not
because
because
it's
you
an
know
art. Because
yeah.
and I will argue that like a lot of things are an art, and I feel like technology is one of the biggest ones that
Yes.
people don't consider an art, but a lot
But
of
it should
aspects
be
of it are very like intrinsic to
artistic.
what art is.
Y- You have to be able to visualize things. You have to be able to experience it like that.
Yeah, there's been an intersection of some of my work lately that's really leaned on that, and I've realized that while I'm not surprised when I run into technical people who have a creative background because there is absolutely an outlet for it. It is still a field
Mhm.
that can easily attract those who don't have it. So,
Mhm.
I've noticed that it is a unique combination when it comes to really being exercised, and I would like to see it more because it would certainly
Yeah.
eventually get us those flying cars we're all asking for that just seem to take forever to be invented.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's kind of where you need that creativity.
I agree. I agree. I think like whenever people are given the freedom to play around with it, it is the things that people come up with are fantastic. Like I know whenever we were in school and we had like the concrete canoe and things like that, the way that people
Oh
did
yeah,
it every year was so different, right? Like
yeah.
and just seeing people get to exercise their own thoughts on things and come up with their own spin on what has already existed. It's like, well, if we don't give them the freedom to be creative, then there's just not going to be creative, right? Like it's not going to
Yeah,
get better.
I mean, when we talk about like how I mentioned how like the Martian was a pretty accurate book in terms of like the
Mhm.
personality of people, but that yeah, there's a lot of pop culture references, but there's a lot of like yeah, I have a feeling there's a lot of people involved that would love to have the opportunity to build a space habitat and grow potatoes and with their own human waste and engineer that solution because it does kind of
Yes.
require the like the MacGyver solution of like I can create the survival path, like I can do this.
Mhm.
I've told people in the past I would love to just have a garage full of broken microwaves to just tinker with, and that
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
that found its way into my character. I think my characters have some shameless self insert in there. I did shamelessly self insert some of my worst qualities so I could make them interesting, but they definitely still like to do things like take things apart, put them back together again in weird ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Have you ever heard of like COSI? It's a museum. It's up in Ohio, but I
Oh,
don't
COSI?
know.
Oh, COSI?
Yeah.
Yeah. They do. It's like a. Well, it's a NASA program, isn't it?
It's not a NASA program. Not this one. This one's a museum.
Oh.
It's geared towards kids, and it has like you can walk in and there's like lights, and whenever you step on the light, then it'll make a noise. Or like
Oh.
there's like different areas where it'll teach a little bit about like biology or like chemistry and stuff like that. And like you can actually visualize what's in the food whenever they're like, oh, this is what this many grams of sugar actually looks like, or like this is what the inside of a cow looks like. And then there's also like water areas where you can learn like about the vibrations and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
It's a really cool space. And so like there was a section where they got to like take things apart and they would encourage like the mechanical world of things, and that's where I spent most of my time too, is you could take computers apart, try and put them back together, and then like try and pull yourself up with one pulley or two or three, that kind of thing.
No, I love those kinds of places. I'm from like the New York City area. Actually, I grew up in Jersey
Mhm.
City, and the Liberty Science Center is right there in Liberty State Park, and it's very much the same kind of thing. It's all those kind of tactile learning STEM
Yeah.
kind of experiences, and I think I probably spent every other weekend there when I was a kid. So yeah, those places are some of my favorite.
I want to be a kid again.
You
I
know,
don't. No, that was tough.
yeah, I'm
I
like
would just
about
like to not have the responsibility associated with being an adult. We could just let that go for
Okay,
now.
that
that's
part.
fair. That's
That
fair.
part.
That's fair. I feel like I would have appreciated it so much more if I had known how much adult life would suck, though.
That is kind of what we get told, right? And then even when you're young, you just ignore it. But,
No, you do. Yeah,
uh,
that's fair. That's fair.
it is nice to know that I have the ability to eat an entire cake on my own if I so choose. But I also appreciate the wisdom to know that I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
The wisdom, no, I will probably throw it up because I
Yeah,
will feel sick afterwards.
right.
Oh my gosh. So outside of science and outside of writing, what are your hobbies? Like, what do you like to do?
So, uh, we have a son, so I have a 3-year-old. So this answer has shifted over the last more recent years of my life. I have had a lot of hobbies over the course of forever. I used to do sports, which I've long since just become a desk chair person. My wife and I got really into beekeeping again during the pandemic. We still have, I might have a hive there. It's been frozen the last few weeks, so I got to go check if they're alive. But like that's actually been a pretty cool hobby that we've been trying to get back into now that we have a much more mobile small human around. He's not stuck inside and subject to bee stings. I've always enjoyed teaching. I've volunteered to teach like aerospace topics to like middle school kind of
Mhm.
students. I do a lot of like outreach. I came from an area where telling people you want to do rocket science to like the financial district in New York City is just weird. I didn't get a lot of opportunities, like giving that opportunity to kids around here or just wherever I'm living locally. I do a lot of like youth outreach volunteer stuff. Then I'm a crafty person. So when we got married, we had a theme for a wedding, which was space pirates because my wife works on boats.
I
So it
love
was like,
that.
oh, hey, that combines. I decided I wanted to make centerpieces for our table that were going to be like little ships in a bottle. So little rocket
Oh,
ships inside
Love
like
that.
glassware. And my solution to that was like, hello, I would like to get a wood lathe. So like I have a wood lathe. I have like some woodworking materials in the back.
yes.
I got a Cricut, so now I'm making lots of t-shirts. I definitely will take over a room in the house because nature abhors a vacuum, and I will fill it with just a crafty scrap stuff. So that comes from my childhood. My parents are both well, they were both members of the Scenic Artists Guild, I think it was called in New York. So they were both part of that
Mm.
scene. I grew up with they had studio spaces. My father did set design. So, he would make 1/8 scale sets for like Mattel or like different toy companies and stuff. And like
Oh wow.
you'd just go to
Wow.
his studio and he just had like scraps of, molding or materials that he would use to just create
Mhm.
whatever visuals he was looking for. As a result, like I've just adopted that habit of like, I don't know, this like toothpaste tube that I've since used, but it's like got this correct shape. I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna turn it into something. And
Mhm.
bless my wife for forgiving me for that fact because it just fills our house. So if I do
Yeah.
have time beyond the fact that I'm a parent or I feel guilty that I haven't checked on bees or I have a job that's taken a lot out of me or I have to write a lesson plan or I have to finish the edits for my book,
That
I'll
part.
probably find a way to make a real big mess out of my back room with a bunch of wood shavings and then I'll probably create something that just people go, I don't know what that is. So The stuff behind me is not necessarily my artwork. It's actually my father's. So I have just comes from a background. So actually, the
That's really
rocket
cool.
ship, that was one from the wedding.
That's wonderful. I honestly really, really like, I feel this because
Yeah,
I
it's
do the same thing. Yeah, like we're currently looking at a pile of things behind the
Yeah.
computer that is a project that I pushed to the side because we need the table. And then I have another table that is taken up by, I have finally joined the resin world. So
Oh,
I get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got some resin stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, resin's taken me. My mother was a
Yeah.
costume designer, so if I wasn't spending time
Mm.
in my father's studio doing things with that stuff, I was in her studio, which just had like an entire floor to ceiling, 18-foot tall ceiling wall of just fabric. So
wow.
I've made
Oh.
stuff out of fabric. I've been making my own costumes. Don't even get me into what my sister and I did with Beanie Babies when we were a kid, because it wasn't putting them in boxes to save for college funds. So yeah,
Now I
that
want to
part.
know.
They had a, yeah, you know how kids have weird play. Like our Beanie Babies had a society. The bald
I
eagle
live.
was the president, but was also married to the kangaroo. There was a unification between Australia and the United States, and then the dogs were
I live.
this weird gendering. The dogs are male, the cats are female, but they were married to each
Duh.
other.
Yeah.
So if I got like a dog Beanie Baby and my sister got a cat Beanie Baby, we had to have a wedding. So they had like the wedding dress we made. They just shared all the time, and this
I love.
tuxedo. They had little baseball teams, tiny little baseball jerseys. We made it. I went into a boy
I
band
love.
phase when McDonald's came out with the teeny ones. So I would get all the little teeny Beanie Babies, and then I made boy band outfits for them. So they were like, and then they had like school trips, and those were the kids. So the little dogs and the little cats were the kids. The big dogs. Anyway, I got my money's worth out of those actually.
Oh my goodness.
They would
That's
go play on
true.
sets that my
That's true
dad would build. So
storytelling.
yeah. So now I got something
That's
published. It's not
not.
about Beanie Babies, but the storytelling is still there.
But you know what? You could retell it with the Beanie Babies and everyone would be so happy.
Yeah,
No,
I
like
think my
those.
dad has been trying to get rid of them. You know what
You
he's
ever
doing?
see
He's
the
actually
calico
slowly
critter?
sneaking them. Calico.
There's
What?
like these, they're like these newer age little figures, but people make
Oh
videos with
no.
them, and it's my guilty pleasure. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
It's
I
like
don't know
so
what you're talking
stupid,
about.
but like they'll
No,
make
I'm gonna
little
look them up.
TikTok videos and like tell a whole story, and it's usually something chaotic. Like this girl just got
Oh.
her BBL and now she's like running over her ex-husband's girlfriend. I don't know. It's crazy stuff, but it's intriguing, and that's what it made me
What
think
the
of.
hell? These look like oh my god, what's the bunny? God,
Looks like
the bunny.
I feel like I know what you're talking about from Nickelodeon. No?
No, I was
I
going
was thinking
for
about Max and Ruby. I think it looks
Oh,
like. You ever
okay.
watch
I
Max
could
and
see that.
Ruby?
Here,
The
wait. I'm
Nicky
gonna
one?
just
Oh, no, I haven't seen those
No,
before.
no.
No,
It-
they look like there's like a bunny that was caught in something. I don't know. It was a book.
Peter
It's a
Cottontail?
kid's. That one.
Oh.
Thank you. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. It's not you,
Sorry.
ever. It's okay.
Sorry,
I
Making
feel
me real
old.
deep,
went too
reach real
Disney.
far back for that one. They look more like those little cherubic children figurines that like
Mhm.
older generations would collect.
Oh my
I
god,
think I know what you're
wait.
talking about.
You don't know?
I think I do.
They were like porcelain, but they were all like super like overly cute little children figurines.
Wait, I think
I
I
don't.
might actually know what you're talking about.
These things.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
kind of a similar vibe. But...
Hummel or something like that. Yeah.
Jackson
Anyway, sorry to
again, yeah.
derail.
So like whenever we have collections like Beanie Babies, are like 3 generations from now going to be like, I can't believe it. Grandma had those stinking Beanie Babies all up on the bookshelf.
I mean, I guess I can at least say that we played with ours. And I was saying, like, my father has been like sneaking them into our lives again, because he'll come visit and he'll be like, "Hey, grandson," and he'll like give a Beanie Baby that clearly I've had spent several years playing with because it's not in new condition, and my kid is just like, care about that.
Oh.
He has been like, he has gotten rid of a significant number of them. I think he's been like selling them at garage sales and bemoaning the fact that he can't sell them at MSRP price. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, no way. Even if you kept them in a box, they still wouldn't sell for the same price.
Yeah.
No,
But
that's so funny.
I don't know. I mean, there's other weird stuff that they're collecting these days. There's
The
something else
Labubu.
that's like,
Oh my god,
that's
the
the
freaking
one.
Labubus.
Yeah. I mean, I can't throw stones, right? I was part of the.
I can.
Not
Only at you though. It's okay.
Oh wow. Oh, okay.
No, not really. Not really. I never would. I collect books. It's fine. That's my hobby of choice.
Same, hard same. No, I'm running out of shelf space.
Yeah. I think if I
I've
get
known
any more
people
books,
that
my
like
boyfriend's gonna kill me.
buy a book and then they read it and then they get rid of it because they don't want to ever read something twice.
I can't relate.
No, I have to
No.
display them like trophies.
I got a stamp that has like from the library of, and then like read it,
Yeah,
love it,
yeah.
return it. And whenever I finish a book that I own, I get to stamp it. So that's
Extra.
I'm not extra. I'm amazing.
I mean, we managed to get a house
No, I
that
love that idea.
has an actual physical library in it. We're out of bookshelf space.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like I can't. I need to build more bookshelves with my woodworking tools. All these days I have time.
Can I come live in your library?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's back there. It's got a bunch of kids' toys in it too, but hey, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I'm
That's
kind of
awesome.
getting back into this toy collecting thing because it's like, I have an excuse now. I have a child who I can be like, yes, I bought these 30 Hot Wheels cars for him and not me. So I'm
Obviously.
definitely filling the void again with other stuff.
Do you find yourself like telling your son's stories based off of like things that you've just come up with, or do you more so like actually read like a book to him?
He's got his own personality. He's still very young, so we haven't had a chance to really like get into me making up stories. I am looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to when he gets more into imaginative play. I mean, I went and I turned one of his like little baby bouncing rocker thingies into a rocket ship for him. I was like, this is great. I'm gonna put a giant cardboard tube over it and make it into a rocket ship. And he was just like,
Yeah.
all right. And then he went back to do something with something else. So I'm ready for that level of play to happen. I've been had to tell repeatedly, like, he's 3, like, you need to let him get there. Lately, he's just been super into Rube Goldberg machines, which the engineer in me is perfectly fine with. So we've been just building, like, balloon popper Rube Goldberg machines, which has been good. He's very much in the, like, he gets 3 books at bedtime, and he has hundreds of books. It's usually the same 3 books. It's, like, Llama, Llama, Red Pajama, and, like, some Bluey or Daniel Tiger thing. He gets like an obsession with it. Anything that has excavators in it. So, yeah, he's not quite at the expanding the imagination phase just yet. But I mean, if what I get as a kid who wants to play with Rube Goldberg machines, we're fine. I'll tell stories and play.
Do you know what a Rube Goldberg machine is?
No.
So a Rube Goldberg machine is like you do one action and then it triggers other actions that trigger other actions that trigger other actions. So like, wasn't there a TV show that had a Rube Goldberg machine like in the opening sequence?
I'm sure. I
feel like
mean,
there
they're
was.
a lot of fun, and there's like also a phase where like people were putting videos on YouTube or TikTok of like their
I
Rube
think I know
Goldbergs of like
now.
a really high level.
Mhm.
I think there's one where like they made breakfast using a Rube Goldberg machine. Like,
Oh,
I mean, the
wow.
eggs like
Yeah.
flew everywhere at the end. Like they didn't quite land plated like a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are so ours is it's like hit the Hot Wheels car and it like drops down into the little thing that knocks the dominoes and then it hits the ball on the marble run and yeah. I mean, I'm
But you
building
said
them
he's
and
only-
he's
he's
being
only
like, that's
3.
so cool. Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
I'm building them and he's like kind of standing in the middle, like poking the dominoes over and over again. So I have to keep resetting them. But like he's engaged. And then he's learned the phrase, that's so cool, which I don't know where he learned that from. So he's just like there going like, that's so cool. As he's like knocking over the thing I just meticulously set up. But like ultimately it's still something that he's engaged with. So that's fine.
Yeah. That's
I
amazing.
mean, you're gonna have to
though.
reset
That's
Rube
amazing.
Goldberg machines 1,000 times anyway. So yeah, that's been fun, and the stories will pick up.
Yes,
Like
I do
I'm
remember
looking
that.
forward to it. Yeah,
That is really cool. I'm excited. Honestly, like I can foresee that whenever you start like saying stories to your son, that you're gonna be like, oh, I can write these down, and we're just gonna get like a sequence of fun like kids books from you.
yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, and I know that authors tend to genre hop, and I've written a bunch of things like just even as exercises. But that'd be interesting if I go from writing cosmic horror, lesbian romance, science fiction with adult themes to hop on pop in
Duality.
space. So I mean,
This
it's
is-
probably gonna still be space themed.
Yeah. I would envision the space theme.
This is
remaining.
why people have like a fake name whenever they write different genres.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with another pen name. Yeah, that's true.
Pen name, that's the word.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't always come up with the words that are supposed to happen.
But it is, it's like when you discover like a new actor or singer and you're like, oh, like, that's cool. And you realize they're like the child of like somebody that you just would not have assigned to it. Like it's like some punk
Yes.
rocker and it's like the child of like the person who always played the nerdy guy in movies. And you're just like, all right. So yeah, but you're right. Like I could certainly see this turning into like, hey, I got a whole bunch of childhood or young adult book ideas now, and I'll be a different kind of
Yeah.
author altogether. I would like to stick with some of the queer science fiction horror genre. That's been fun. I'm enjoying that. I
Mhm.
think there needs to be more of it. So let's not let go of that one. But yeah, I can pivot.
Obviously. You'll have more free time as he gets older anyway. That's how it works, right?
No.
Says someone who doesn't have kids and doesn't know anything about kids.
Yeah.
No, it's I'm surprised I've been able to maintain as many interests of mine as I have. I've had friends who've had kids who are just like, I forgot who I was as a human. And I'm like, I don't want that to be me. I have had to make some adjustments, but just here's hoping some of them align. He's very excited for baseball. So I played softball and baseball when I was a kid, so that'll be fun too. But the playtime right now is pretty good. And I like that idea. Like, yeah, there's gonna be some good stories from that.
I mean, you are a storyteller, like from all the things you were saying, even from like the Beanie Babies. You were meant to be a storyteller. We're excited to hear it. But speaking of your current book being like a lesbian, all that, how has, if you're comfortable sharing this, how has being queer like affected your life and your story, and like, or has it really affected how you see the world? Do you think?
So I came out a while ago, when I was 15, and I am fully aware of the level of luck that I've had with like family and the support that I've gone through and the area that I lived in, which was accepting enough. I mean, it was still 2003, so do with it as you will. But um, the blessing from that was the ability to not let it be a big focus, and I did kind of let it impede on some of my full on career. I regularly would go like to school, or I would go off to college and be like, up back in the closet I go, or I would go to grad school. I'm like, yep, gotta be quiet about that again. Or I started my first job and just kind of keep my mouth shut until, I would kind of steadily realize like it's okay. Like people can tell, but also like it's just something that's gonna be part of me. I mean, I went through a lot of that, very early energetic kind of coming out, awakening stuff when I was a teenager. And then, I eventually managed to kind of get a little bit more calm about it to the point where, it have an effect on me? Did it direct parts of my career? Potentially. I don't know if I focused on it enough to allow it to really sink in. That I've mentioned that, like it's not a weird intersection, but engaging with other queer people in technical industries, especially one like aerospace, where it tends to want to phase towards an older generation. You can kind of feel a little bit isolated in that, and you
Right.
then also don't tend to walk very easily in queer spaces because of how engaged you are with that particular industry. So there's like this reverse flip side of feeling isolated as well. So you're kind of this like neither fish nor fowl situation. So part of what I really enjoyed when I was inspired by reading Gideon the Ninth was really just the tone and kind of the banter that came from the characters, which made me think that's what I loved about it. But then when I started thinking, oh, I can write something myself, and I really had to dig into like, well, what am I going to write about? My character started to grow beyond just me saying like, I just need like a vehicle for me to put my own stuff out there. And that's where, I talk about it being a shameless self-insert is I was essentially trying to elevate the idea of like the sexual orientation of my characters is present but irrelevant in a way that still makes the story applicable across the board. So I don't necessarily address their orientation specifically. It's just one of those, this is just a fact kind of things. And it's not even brought up. They don't even need to introduce it to themselves. There's just not a question of it. They're attracted to each other. They don't really talk about being attracted to anybody else. And that's just the nature of it. And part of it was kind of a little finger to some of the books that I read as a kid, because from reading something from like Dean Koontz or Ray Bradbury or just Isaac Asimov, and it's like, hey, here's this work of fiction. It's engaging, it's entertaining, and you have this plot, and it's a really creative idea, and it has nothing to do with the fact that like there shouldn't be any romance in this. It's just a story. You've got a monster, you have an alien, you have like an event happening, something that's occurring, but then at the end of the book, you've got these characters, and it's like, why are we now reading about them in bed together? Like, why did that romance come out from a story that was focusing on something else? So I was like, well, if that can happen with straight characters because they're literally, I don't know, in the room together, then I can do it better with two queer characters, but still have a story that
Mhm.
focuses on like this science fiction side of things and this other plot that's
Mhm.
happening. And then I can just let the fact that they're queer and together just be a way of bolstering the story instead of it being a front row theme. Now, I get that that's probably not relevant to everybody, but that was kind of how it reflected with me because I just stopped paying attention to it as this effector on my life, but it's still present. And that's just
Right.
how I live. So I wanted characters where that was just how they lived. Like that was what the default relationship would be at the end of the event.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make it an engaging relationship so that people didn't get to the end of the book and go like, why are they kissing? Because I've read books like that where I'm like, oh, I don't know who
Mhm.
these two people are. They talked twice, and apparently you were aiming for romance just because they are
Yeah.
opposite sex attracted. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely read books like that or movies, seen movies like that. Sorry. But, like, I always do it's like a jump scare. It's like, "Wait, where did this come from?" Or, like, you just don't feel the energy of the characters coming together at all, and you're like, "This wasn't romantic. Why are they together now? Like, this doesn't make sense." And I do
Yeah,
really love like, I actually just read another book like that, that you like, the one that another book like what you were talking about where it's like, it just exists, the sexuality just exists. It's not an issue to overcome. It's not like a topic of conversation to explain to somebody. It's just I am what I am and it doesn't affect anything except for the fact that this is who I want to sleep with and this isn't. Like that I love that representation personally.
yeah, I know there's importance to books or shows that make it a point because there's a point in my life where I needed
Yeah,
that. I needed to be able to read something or watch something where it was addressed. And so there's a place for it. I think I've just reached a place in my life where I wanted it to be like I don't need that. I just need it to be part of the story so that I can continue to
exactly.
relate to it. But yeah, I think the example that I was always thinking about when it would come up was I was reading Phantoms by Dean Koontz and I couldn't put it down. It was fascinating, and the characters were fine. They were in the avenue that this story was like taking fold. I kind of like was reading it and I came to a conclusion and I had all these like, wow, like, okay, I get that. And then like the epilogue practically, like they were on their honeymoon and I was like, what? They were they were a thing? I thought she hated him. And it was just such a weird, it's like, why, what is it about like these straight author guy things? They just like make that, they just do it. And I'm just like, that didn't, you put no work into it. You had all this other cool stuff going on. Anyway, that's a great.
No, that's a I have a very similar gripe and I'm in like a book club that's primarily straight people and I have found that they very much like the books that end in romance no matter what. So I'm assuming that these authors do it because they know that they can get that audience, but I'm like,
Yeah.
but the romance isn't there until the end. So like why did you like that? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it personally.
Seems like some low-hanging fruit for them, but it's fine. That's why I figured I'll if I see a problem, I'll try to fix it myself. I can't complain if I'm not doing something to help.
Mhm.
So there
And
we
now
go.
you're doing it better.
Mhm.
And I do like your point of like those books where it is like a thing to overcome your feelings on it or the fact that it is like I have to discuss it with people that does exist in real life. So
Mhm.
it is important to have that, but I feel like it doesn't have to be all the books, right?
Yeah.
Like
No.
I feel like that's where I am of like every single book I was reading for a while there that had queer characters. It was like, okay, and now we're going to have the conversation again. And it's like that's so I think that like you coming into this niche and like bringing that reality of it just exists is very very important. I like that.
And the reality that
Yeah.
like sorry.
No, go.
Even in
Yeah.
like our own like world, I mean, obviously we have to have those conversations
Yeah.
more sometimes, but I do think that there is like you even said like in your own life, like there's periods in life that we go through where it's like queerness isn't always the forefront. And for certain people, it isn't. It's just another thing. And in a perfect ideal world, it would be no different than hair color, in my opinion. But I think it's important to still spotlight that. And I also
Mhm.
really liked the part that you said, kind of going back to just your own queerness and how it was always there. And there were like different spots that you went through where you were like, oh, I'm kind of remasking this or like putting myself in some sort of closet. Cause I've also experienced that a lot through my waves of like gender identity and sexuality. And it's really easy to like not. that you're like re-putting yourself in a box, I feel like, and then you blink and you're like, oh wait, like actually I'm not showing this part of myself or this part, even if people can kind of already see it. But
Mm.
yeah, just wanted to shed light on that.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of like two schools of thought when it comes to queer fiction, either science fiction or otherwise. One where in order for it to be queer fiction, it has to be very overt about very like queer themes. So it has to be incredibly like,
Mhm.
this is my experience of dealing with prejudice. And I
Right.
personally don't like reading those because it's like if I have to live that in everyday life, I don't want to then ensconce myself that in a novel. And then there's the other
Mhm.
ones that I do tend to like, where maybe they just make the queerness irrelevant to the overall story, but they actually still
Mhm.
examine those issues another way. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think if, I'll bring up Gideon the Ninth again, because I don't know if you guys have read it, but like the author
Yeah.
establishes that it's incredibly normal. Like there's really no like
Mhm.
defined orientation.
Mhm.
Having a same sex relationship is just whatever. Like it's not even like a ratios thing. It's yeah, anybody can be queer in that story. But what
Mhm.
she does instead is she creates this taboo around like a necromancer dating their cavalier, which is clearly the
Mhm.
relationship between the two characters. So they still like it's fine that they're both gay, but
Mhm.
they're still kind of taboo from being together because they have this kind of like
Mhm.
master slave relationship that is not
Mhm.
something that they necessarily got to choose. It just happened that way and they have to kind of overcome that. So you're still kind of addressing a theme that is familiar, but not in the overt, like, society is like, against gay
Mhm.
people, like a,
Mhm.
yeah, they're fine with gay people. They just don't like necromancers dating their swordsmen. So I guess thinking about it, like the main character that I put in my work is hiding a secret. Like she has
Mhm.
hidden herself on a space station and is refusing to face society. She feels rejected by society, so she's kind of isolated herself and she doesn't want to share her background with anybody. So she's just made herself this kind of incredibly recluse, angry individual as a result.
Mhm.
And throughout the course of the story, like her background has to become be aware of it, and it adds to what's reasoning, like what's happening. It just has nothing to do with her being gay. It's
Right.
another aspect of the story that's happening. So while it's like entirely understandable, sure, yeah, she's clearly just into her coworker, and her coworker's clearly into her in return, and we don't need to examine
Mhm.
that background story. What we do need to examine is why the hell she decided to maroon herself on a space station and what thing she's hiding that caused that.
Yeah.
So
I love the way that you describe that too, of like you can still like highlight a topic without highlighting it specifically. And I think that's why like reading comprehension is so important,
Mhm.
and why we always read into things based off of our own experiences. Like you and I could read the same thing and be like, "Oh, this is representing this or this is representing that." And like we could both be right because of our own experiences, right? And like I think that's why it's so important too for like straight people to read queer books, because it's like, well, I don't know what it's like to be queer. Then I read a book and I'm reading it from this perspective. I'm seeing the coming out, I'm seeing the stress. And so, like, those books very much are like a punch in the face to people who've never experienced it. But then also, it's like the people who just don't quite get it, don't empathize with it whenever it's directly about queerness, might understand it when it's something like Gideon the Ninth, where it is like, well, we're not mentioning sexuality here. We're mentioning, well, they can't be together for this reason. And then it's like, oh, this is what it's like. So, like,
Mhm.
I think that reading comprehension is very, very important, and reading different books from different authors and different styles and all of that is so important to empathizing with different groups of people that you will never have the chance to celebrate or experience life as them, then you can at least understand where they're coming from.
It's also like, I don't know, just examining, I don't know. In my head, I look at it like the thought of like focusing on the verb rather than the noun. I don't know if
Explain?
that
Can you
makes
explain that?
sense, but like essentially because it's the action, right? The action of like something being looked down upon. It's not actually what is, right?
So you're saying, like, it's
Like,
not about queerness, it's about the action of people looking down on queerness?
yeah,
Okay,
or like discriminating against a certain group or
right.
saying like XYZ needs to be this way because this is how I think, right? Like that's the action within itself versus like even though the intent is to bring up the queer subject,
Yeah,
it's not, it could be applicable to other things
right.
because yeah.
No, that makes sense.
And
I
yeah, I
think
think
I
that
resonate
discernment.
with that too. It's like saying like
Yeah.
this is a map, and then it's like, hey, let's
Mhm,
walk this path together kind of situation.
exactly.
I mean, one of
Yeah.
them is just like
Yeah.
right there, and the other one is like we're gonna meander this and kind of it comes from the different learning styles. I'm super into the whole different learning
Mhm,
styles. I'm terrible at learning things from like reading. We talk about reading comprehension. me and textbooks don't get along very well, despite all of my
Me
like
too.
background with science stuff. I did really great in my labs. So I was that tactile learner. Like I like doing things with my hands. I
Yes.
like engaging with it and like going through those experiences and I get to learn from it. So yeah, the winding path teaches me better than the direct, like, in your face kind of presentation of information. So
Me
yeah,
as well. I feel like tactile is like my first, and then it's like, but if you tell me something, it's gone. I have to either write it down or like if I read it, I'll remember it usually, but that doesn't mean I understand it.
yeah. Or I
But
have to be doing something while you're telling me. Like
yes.
I've honestly absorbed more information because I was like simultaneously mowing the lawn while listening to a call, and it was just like that made me absorb it.
Yep.
But that's another part of my brain that's just kind of weird.
That's a whole real thing though,
Yeah.
because monotonous tasks I think are so important. And I say that as like I'm really bad at like pushing off those monotonous adult tasks and just like throwing myself into work. But I do find like I'm the most inspired in those moments because it's like your brain gets
It
a second to
exercises
just
different.
fucking
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
breathe a little
Yeah.
bit and not worry about everything
I use
else.
it like a
Yeah.
filter. If I can filter out like the low level frequencies, and then I can just like let the
Mhm.
right information fall in where it needs to. I just got to engage that like
Mhm.
10% over there so that it's not dragging me outwards. So
Yeah.
just a bunch of tactics that I had to employ over the years.
Yeah.
I
So
almost wonder then if most creative people are more tactile learners because like I feel like every single person that I've
Yeah.
talked to that does a lot of creative stuff, they're like, yeah, I have to physically try it before
Mhm.
I can understand it. So I wonder if that's a thing.
yeah, which it's
True.
weird because my father wound up teaching high school, and I had to take art classes in high school, but I went to a school that was very like academically driven. So they were trying to
Mhm.
quantify artistic approach. And my dad
Mhm.
actually wound up like mimicking that in his classes, but I was just like, how do you quantify that? How do you quantify somebody tactilely engaging with the medium in their own way? I
Yeah.
was not going to have this
It's
conversation with my father. I was just not going to deal with that. But the actual, like, the thought process would always kind of confuse me because he was like, I got to fail this kid. And I'm like, why? I mean, they did it in their own way. Like, they were feeling their way through this answer. I don't think that you can grade
Exactly.
that. But
yeah,
Yeah,
the
I feel like
school
art is all
system
about
just needs to
trying.
put a grade. Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck the school system.
Yeah. I don't
it's
want to
the
go
same
back
like
to
where
that. You said you want to be a kid again? I don't want to be a kid. I don't want to deal with any of that.
That's true. That's true. That's
that
true.
part. Yeah, I don't know. Even in nightlife, like competition shows and things like that, it's the same thing. Like when we started show producing, because we do a lot of like drag events and stuff. Like I started doing competition shows, and I was like, I don't know, who am I? Like I was judging, but then I was like, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't. I don't know. I've never loved judging art in any form. It just feels. I don't know.
Icky.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like I understand teaching the skill set, but then I think it's just the difference between like the skill set and the
Yeah.
art itself. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know. It's a
why
weird gray area.
I think that we just finished the Olympics. My wife was super into the figure skating, and I was just sitting there. I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't do any of that. I mean, they're getting scored.
Real.
Okay. I mean, all right, somebody fell.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. That sucks for them. But like everybody else, I'm like, I can't tell the difference between that spin and that spin. I mean, they're spinning on ice with
Yeah.
blades. Like that's
Yeah.
full points. So yeah, the people who judge that stuff, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
everything has to be skilled
All
somehow.
tens for me. They're there. They made it.
Yeah.
Proud of
Right.
them.
Yes. That's the destination. It's the journey.
No, I love
Yeah.
them.
It was, but no, I agree. Yeah. I feel like it's hard to objectively score any kind of artistic representation. But
Yeah.
I'm sure if my father hears this podcast, I'm going to have a conversation at some point later on. So
Just remind him that you are allowed to have your own interpretation on life. And that's okay.
I'm going to remind him that he also should not get rid of any more Beanie Babies.
Oh,
Just so that he can keep sneaking them into my son's life.
Closer to the hour, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to, or that you'd like to go back to and talk more about?
No, I know that, I kind of mentioned there's a weird gray area between being queer and being involved in some of the tech industry stuff. And I know
Mhm.
that there's certainly some feelings here and there about it. Um, so many people that I work with, no matter where they land in interests or background or identity, I mean, we love what we do because we wanna explore, and that's inherently part of what we do. We understand that there's things that can make it stressful. I thoroughly enjoy being involved in space, and I enjoy the fact that being
Mm.
able to write about space reopens up that thrill of discovery that is out there with it, because I think that we can so easily forget that. So that's kind of my favorite part about being in the intersection of these two things, and then also being able to bring parts of my identity into it. I think it's just it became a much more satisfying output than I could have expected it to be when I thought that I was just helping add to the can of fodder that might be at the checkout line in Target. Instead, I've managed to create something that I feel like is actually kind of bridging that gap. So,
I can't wait to read it. I'm adding it to my list.
oh,
It's
sweet. That's
a
awesome.
lot of books long, but I'm adding it to my list.
No, I can understand that.
Do you want to share where people can find it?
So it's available from a bunch of like online retailers. You can get it through Amazon, but it's also available through Ingram. And if you go to spacewizardsciencefantasy.com, they can direct you to various locations where you can purchase it. There's also available an e-reader. The first book, Space Station X, is also on audiobook through Tantrum Media. So there's a bunch of kind of access to links to various places where you guys can source that as well. So
Thank you so much for sitting down. This has been,
yeah,
Oh,
sure.
God.
oh my gosh, hello. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Of course.
Real.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
your
well, thank you.
story.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. And is there any like social media? I don't know if you're a social media person that you want to plug or just the book is also just fine.
I am on Blue Sky and Instagram. I am terrible at Instagram. I have a website as well. It's azratheeng.com. I guess you have to write that one out, but then it's AZ Roskillis on Blue Sky. So those are the primary outlets that I have online.
Okay,
So,
cool. Well,
well,
thank you again so much for sitting down. This has been a really fun conversation.
Oh yeah, no, thanks guys.
enjoy the rest of your Friday and I hope you have a good weekend.
Yeah, enjoy the weather.
Yep, thank you.
Or is it?
Oh, wait, yeah, it might
it's
be cold
frozen
up
where you're
there.
at, isn't it?
It was 90 degrees on Thursday and it was 32
Oh.
degrees yesterday with snow on the ground. So I
Yep.
have no idea what's going on out
Love.
there. It's really the end of time. I'll just roll with
That
it.
part.
Enjoy the time with your family.
That's why I was like, I'm pretty sure Virginia is covered in ice.
I'll go pick up a good book. I'll just kind of hunker down.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again so much.
Yep.
Stay in touch.
Yep. Thank you guys too. Have a good one, all right?
You too. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Once again, I am your co-host, and our other co-host was Becca. This was honestly just a great conversation. It was so interesting and just different than what we're used to, you know? So it was really fun to sit and chat and get into AZ's world a little bit. If you want to know more about them, you can find their books, Space Station X and Fractal Terminus, through spacewizardsciencefantasy.com, or you can also find the audiobook through Tantrum Media. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Queer Vision Podcast, and we will see you in the next one. If I learned anything today, it's if you see a problem, fix it. And trust, I didn't actually learn that because that's just the bitch I am, because I am an Aries sun. Okay? And I have a lot of Aries placements. So like, this ain't new to me. But maybe you. What did you learn today?
I learned how to stick up for myself. I learned how to be confident. I learned how to do the shit that I want to do. I am inspired.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for that resounding review of this podcast episode. This has been me doing me. And this has been the podcast doing the podcast. I'm going to stop talking. Sometimes being gay is not the most interesting thing about you. I said sometimes because some of y'all are boring. I'm not helping people want to sign up for these interviews. I'm the problem.